What if I told you that a man from Zimbabwe has just broken every rule known to the auto world by building a bus that runs on thin air? Yes, you heard right. No fuel, no charging ports, just pure innovation. This isn't a science fiction story. It's a real event happening now. Welcome to the future. And its name is Maxwell Chikumbutso, the man behind this wonder. Maxwell, a humble inventor from Zimbabwe, has shocked scientists around the globe. While most of the world's biggest car companies are spending billions on electric vehicles and charging systems, Maxwell ignored all the usual steps. Instead, he built a bus that needs no fuel, no plug, and not even a normal battery. His secret lies in a mysterious device known as the Greener Power Machine, or GPM, a system that makes electricity from radio waves and energy in the air. In simple words, it pulls power from the atmosphere around us. It's more than just a bus. It's a moving symbol of everything we thought was impossible about energy and transport. The bus, now nicknamed the Airbus by locals, is Maxwell's newest creation. It recently finished a 5,000-kilometer real-world test drive across southern Africa. No fuel stops, no emissions, and no charging stations. From Harare to Lusaka, people stood amazed as the bus moved silently through their towns. It became a sight of awe, an engineering masterpiece in motion. Engineers, officials, and even skeptics came to witness it themselves. They opened the engine. No combustion, no fuel tank, not even solar panels. How can this be? Asked an engineer from Lusaka University. The science or the mystery? No one knows the full truth yet. Maxwell stays private about his complete plans. But what's known is that the GPM turns radio frequencies into useful power while in motion. Unlike solar or wind energy, it works all day and all night under any weather. This isn't just another vehicle. It's the start of a new energy era. Imagine cities without charging points. Imagine an Africa that powers its own transport system using energy from the air. The news sent shockwaves worldwide. Zimbabwean inventor breaks physics, read one headline. Could Africa have just jumped past the electric vehicle revolution? No fuel, no plug, no problem. Companies like Tesla, Toyota, and BYD were left stunned, trying to understand what had just happened. Some doubted it, calling it fake. Others flew to Harare at once. Private jets landed quietly. Business leaders and engineers toured Maxwell's workshop. Behind closed doors, serious talks began. They didn't come for fame. They came because they knew that if Maxwell's invention truly worked and could scale, everything about the world's energy system might change. Oil power would weaken, charging networks would become outdated, and Africa, for once, would become an innovator, not a follower. Across Africa, excitement was rising. In Kenya, city leaders asked, "Can we switch all our buses to this?" In Nigeria, young engineers started sketching how to fit GPM units into bikes and homes. In South Africa, factories began retooling to produce systems that could work with Maxwell's invention. This wasn't just about a bus anymore. It was about energy freedom. Finally, an invention from Africa for Africa, said a female engineer from Nairobi. Maxwell's creation inspired not only scientists and investors, but also young dreamers everywhere. Teen programmers in Ghana, backyard inventors in Ethiopia. People suddenly realized that the power to change the world could start with them. But not everyone was celebrating. Reports started to surface: missing news interviews, deleted videos, blocked media. Some claimed big oil companies and lobby groups were behind it, trying to hide the story. One global news channel had a major feature planned, but canceled it hours before it aired. Online clips showing the technology disappeared for policy reasons. Yet the bus kept driving. Every kilometer was a message to the old system. The future can't be stopped. Then came Maxwell's first public speech since the storm began. Standing simply at a podium in Harare, without any sponsors or fancy screens, he spoke from the heart. This invention isn't about money, he said calmly. It's about freedom, showing that Africa can create, can lead, and can stand on its own. The crowd went wild. Flags waved. Elders cried. Children cheered. It wasn't just the unveiling of a machine, it was the birth of hope. His words reached far and wide: classrooms in Senegal, refugee camps in Sudan, science fairs in Rwanda. Young students started quoting him, calling him the man who proved Africa can fly. Soon after, the rollout began. Within weeks, pilot fleets were launched. In Lusaka, 10 buses began city service under the watch of local engineers and universities. In Accra, Ghana, another long-distance test silenced skeptics after running without a single fuel stop. In Kigali, Rwanda, the government signed a deal to begin domestic GPM production. Data from these trials was overwhelming. Zero emissions, no downtime for charging, 70% lower maintenance costs, and over 6,000-kilometer range per trip. The world couldn't ignore it anymore. The idea began spreading fast, from the busy streets of Lagos to the desert highways of Cairo. Maxwell's dream was turning into a movement. In Brazil, companies started upgrading old diesel buses with GPM-like systems. In India, scientists proposed using similar tech to bring electricity to remote villages. In Europe, research groups modeled new city systems using the Chikumbutso protocols. Everyone started asking the same question: if one man in Zimbabwe can do this, what else might be possible? As the fuel-free bus story spread across continents, reactions were intense. In Berlin, transport ministers met to discuss how this could shake oil-based economies. In Washington, experts debated what it meant for fossil markets. In Tokyo, top engineers reached out to meet Maxwell's team, and it wasn't just officials. Social media lit up with hashtags like Maxwell Effect, Airbus Africa, and Fuel-Free Future. From tech vloggers to comedians, everyone was talking about the invention that seemed too good to be true. But beneath the excitement, tension grew. Oil corporations funded investigations to fact-check the project. Certain news sites hinted at safety risks or even industrial sabotage. Rumors spread about threats in African tech labs. Maxwell didn't back down. Instead, he opened public test centers in Johannesburg, Nairobi, and Kigali, where anyone could see the buses in action. Engineers from MIT and Cambridge came to test it. Reporters from BBC and Al Jazeera streamed live. Scientists studied the GPM system, and it worked. No magic tricks, just real science used in new ways. Across Africa, a quiet revolution began. Mechanics in Malawi and Tanzania started creating their own versions. Schools added GPM tech to their science lessons. African investors joined forces to build new clean energy factories. This was no longer just Maxwell's story. It had become a continent's rise. Africa, moving from being a consumer of foreign inventions to becoming a creator, a leader, a challenger. What started as one bus quietly moving through the savannas had turned into a global movement, a symbol of strength, hope, and change. In Kenya, new tax laws rewarded clean tech startups. In Nigeria, groups of young inventors held air engine challenges. In South Africa, lawmakers debated a plan for a fuel free transport corridor across Africa. Meanwhile, oil stocks fell and African innovation funds soared. But the fight was far from over. Documents leaked showing big car companies labeling Maxwell's work as a global disruptor. Fuel corporations secretly lobbied African governments, offering investment in exchange for slowing GPM rollout. Journalists investigating were threatened. At a press event in Addis Ababa, he said one line that went viral: "We don't fear disruption, we are the disruption." The crowd exploded with cheers. Microgrid stations that used motion instead of external electricity were already being built. And then came the wildest reveal: a concept for a self powered aircraft. The leaked images showed a vertical lift vehicle that used vibration and radio frequency harvesters instead of jet fuel. Africa wasn't just part of the conversation anymore, it was leading it. When word of the aircraft spread, the world reacted with alarm. A leaked European report warned that GPM travel could make most of Europe's oil transport systems useless in 10 years. In the US, defense analysts studied it as a potential strategic risk. In Asia, China sent engineers under the title of a green partnership. India's labs quietly began their own tests. Instead, he opened the Green Tech Open Lab, a space where African scientists, young engineers, and open source thinkers could work together to use GPM for farming, transport, and even clean water. The results were powerful. In Mali, GPM irrigation systems turned dry land green again. In Angola, GPM motorcycles gave jobs to young riders with zero fuel cost. In Namibia, mobile health vans powered by motion brought care to remote areas. The world's biggest news networks could no longer ignore it. CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera all ran features with titles like "The Man Who Defied Physics" and "Africa's Energy Revolution." But resistance didn't disappear. Maxwell's invite to a tech event in London was cancelled. His US visa was allegedly blocked. Some groups in Geneva questioned the science behind GPM at the UN level. But by then, the world had seen too much.